The Weight of Leadership, a Tale of Two Nigerias. Nigeria, a nation brimming with potential, has long grappled with the complexities of economic and social progress. The arrival of President Tinubu's administration ushered in a wave of anticipation, a hope for a brighter future, yet the reality that unfolded painted a starkly different picture. The Nigeria before Tinubu's tenure, though fraught with its own challenges, held a semblance of stability in key economic indicators. Fuel prices, while fluctuating, remained within a manageable range for the average citizen. The dollar exchange rate, a critical barometer of economic health, exhibited relative stability. Today, a different Nigeria emerges. The economic landscape has undergone a dramatic transformation, characterized by soaring inflation and a precipitous decline in the value of the naira. Fuel prices have skyrocketed, placing an immense burden on ordinary Nigerians who struggle to afford basic necessities. The dollar exchange rate has spiraled, eroding the purchasing power of citizens and disrupting international trade. This stark contrast between the two Nigerias underscores the profound impact of leadership on the nation's economic well-being. The weight of leadership, once a beacon of hope, now casts a long shadow of uncertainty over the lives of millions. The economic policies implemented under President Tinubu's leadership have come under intense scrutiny. Critics argue that these policies, rather than alleviating the economic woes, have exacerbated them. The removal of fuel subsidies, while intended to promote market efficiency, has instead led to a sharp rise in transportation costs, further fueling inflation. The government's approach to monetary policy has also been questioned, with concerns raised about its effectiveness in curbing inflation and stabilizing the exchange rate. As Nigeria grapples with this economic turbulence, the question of leadership looms large. The choices made at the helm of power have a direct and undeniable impact on the lives of every citizen. The promise of a better Nigeria, once so palpable, now feels distant and elusive. The stark reality of the nation's economic decline serves as a potent reminder of the profound responsibility that comes with leadership. The weight of this responsibility, if not borne with wisdom and foresight, can lead a nation down a perilous path. The tale of two Nigerias, one before and one during Tinubu's tenure, stands as a testament to this truth. A nation adrift going through the turbulent currents of change. The social fabric of Nigeria, once vibrant and resilient, is now strained under the weight of economic hardship. The rise in poverty is perhaps the most alarming consequence of the nation's economic downturn. Millions of Nigerians, once able to eke out a living, now find themselves trapped in a cycle of poverty, struggling to afford even the most basic necessities. The unemployment rate has surged, leaving countless individuals without a source of income and a sense of purpose. The streets of Nigeria's cities, once teeming with commerce and opportunity, now bear witness to the growing ranks of the unemployed. Young people, brimming with talent and ambition, find themselves adrift in a sea of economic uncertainty. The dreams of a brighter future, once nurtured with hope, are now threatened by the harsh realities of the present. The social consequences of Nigeria's economic crisis extend far beyond the realm of statistics. The erosion of social cohesion is a palpable reality. As economic hardship bites, tensions rise, and the bonds that hold communities together begin to fray. The trust between the government and the governed has been severely eroded, replaced by a sense of disillusionment and resentment. The social contract, once a source of stability and order, now appears fragile and uncertain. The Nigerian people, known for their resilience and spirit of community, now face an unprecedented challenge. The economic turmoil has shaken the very foundations of their society, leaving them grappling with an uncertain future. The government's response to this crisis has been met with mixed reactions. While some acknowledge the efforts made to mitigate the impact of the economic downturn, others criticize the government for its perceived inaction and lack of urgency. The voices of the people, once a chorus of hope, now reflect a growing sense of frustration and despair. As Nigeria navigates these turbulent currents of change, the need for decisive leadership and effective solutions has never been greater. The crushing grip of inflation, a nation's purchasing power eroded. Inflation, a silent thief, has stealthily crept into the lives of Nigerians, eroding their purchasing power and undermining their economic security. The cost of basic necessities from food to transportation has soared, placing an immense strain on household budgets. Families who once managed to make ends meet now find themselves struggling to put food on the table and provide for their children's education. The relentless rise in prices has transformed everyday life into a constant struggle for survival. The naira, once a symbol of national pride, has plummeted in value, its purchasing power diminished by the relentless onslaught of inflation. The savings of hard-working Nigerians, carefully accumulated over years of toil, have been devalued, their dreams of a secure future shattered. The economic landscape, once familiar and predictable, has become treacherous and uncertain. The crushing grip of inflation has tightened its hold on the nation, leaving its citizens grappling with a sense of helplessness and despair. The government's response to the inflation crisis has been met with skepticism and frustration. Critics argue that the measures implemented have been insufficient to curb the rising prices and alleviate the suffering of the people. The removal of fuel subsidies, while intended to promote market efficiency, has backfired, leading to a sharp increase in transportation costs and further fueling inflation. The government's monetary policies have also come under scrutiny, with concerns raised about their effectiveness in stabilizing the economy. As inflation continues its relentless march, the social and economic consequences are becoming increasingly dire. The gap between the rich and the poor is widening, exacerbating social inequalities and fueling resentment. The middle class, once a pillar of stability, is being squeezed, its aspirations of upward mobility threatened by the rising cost of living. The fabric of Nigerian society, already strained by economic hardship, is being further stretched by the relentless pressure of inflation. The nation stands at a crossroads, facing a choice between decisive action to combat inflation or a descent into economic and social chaos. Section 4. Silent sufferings, the human cost of economic turmoil. Behind the cold statistics of economic decline lie the silent sufferings of millions of Nigerians. The human cost of this turmoil is immeasurable, etched in the faces of those who struggle daily to survive. The elderly, once revered as pillars of wisdom and experience, now face a precarious existence, their meager pensions eroded by inflation. The sick and vulnerable, in desperate need of medical care, find themselves priced out of the healthcare system, their hopes of recovery dwindling with each passing day. The children of Nigeria, the nation's future, bear the brunt of this economic crisis. Malnutrition rates are on the rise, stunting their growth and jeopardizing their cognitive development. Educational opportunities, once a pathway to a brighter future, are now increasingly out of reach as families struggle to afford school fees and basic supplies. The dreams of a generation are being extinguished by the harsh realities of economic hardship. The stories of human suffering are endless, each one a testament to the devastating impact of economic decline. A young mother forced to choose between feeding her children and paying for their education, her heart heavy with the weight of impossible choices. A skilled artisan, his workshop silent, his tools idle, his livelihood shattered by the lack of demand. A university graduate, brimming with potential, reduced to selling trinkets on the roadside, his dreams of a fulfilling career dashed against the rocks of economic reality. These silent sufferings are a stark indictment of the failures of leadership and a call for urgent action. The government's response to this crisis must go beyond economic indicators and address the human cost of its policies. The provision of social safety nets, the expansion of access to healthcare and education, and the creation of job opportunities are essential steps towards alleviating the suffering of the people. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now. The fate of millions of Nigerians hangs in the balance. Section 5. Misplaced priorities, a question of allocation and accountability. As Nigeria grapples with a deepening economic crisis, the allocation of government resources has come under intense scrutiny. Critics argue that the government's priorities are misplaced, with excessive spending directed towards projects of questionable value while essential services are neglected. The construction of grandiose infrastructure projects, often marred by allegations of corruption, has taken precedence over investments in education, healthcare, and social welfare. This misallocation of resources has exacerbated the plight of ordinary Nigerians who bear the brunt of economic hardship. The government's defense of its spending priorities often rings hollow in the ears of those struggling to survive. The argument that infrastructure development is essential for economic growth fails to resonate with those who lack access to basic necessities. The construction of new airports and highways, while potentially beneficial in the long term, does little to address the immediate needs of those struggling to feed their families and afford medical care. The government's priorities appear detached from the realities of everyday life, fueling a sense of disillusionment and resentment among the populace. The lack of transparency and accountability in government spending further erodes public trust. Allegations of corruption, often involving high-ranking officials, are rampant, casting a shadow over the government's commitment to serving the public good. The perception that public funds are being siphoned off for personal gain fuels cynicism and undermines faith in the government's ability to address the nation's challenges. The Nigerian people, weary of empty promises and unfulfilled expectations, demand a more responsible and accountable approach to governance. The government's misplaced priorities have real and tangible consequences for the lives of ordinary Nigerians. The lack of investment in education perpetuates a cycle of poverty, denying future generations the opportunity to reach their full potential. The neglect of healthcare infrastructure leaves the sick and vulnerable at the mercy of a system ill-equipped to meet their needs. The failure to prioritize social welfare programs exacerbates the plight of the most vulnerable members of society, condemning them to a life of hardship and deprivation. The choices made by those in power have a direct and undeniable impact on the well-being of the nation. The time for a reassessment of priorities is long overdue. Section 6, A Crossroads of Choice, the path ahead for Nigeria. Nigeria stands at a crossroads, facing a choice between continuing down a path of economic decline and social unrest or charting a new course towards a more prosperous and equitable future. The choices made today will determine the fate of millions of Nigerians for generations to come. The path ahead is fraught with challenges, but also with opportunities for transformation. The first step towards a brighter future is an honest reckoning with the mistakes of the past. The government must acknowledge the shortcomings of its policies and demonstrate a genuine commitment to addressing the root causes of the nation's economic woes. The second step is a fundamental shift in priorities. The allocation of resources must reflect the urgent needs of the people, with a focus on investments in education, healthcare, and social welfare. The government must prioritize the creation of job opportunities, empower small businesses, and foster an environment conducive to economic growth. The third step is the restoration of public trust. The government must demonstrate a commitment to transparency and accountability, tackling corruption head-on, and ensuring that public funds are used for the benefit of all Nigerians. The path ahead will require bold leadership, visionary thinking, and a willingness to make difficult choices. The status quo is no longer sustainable. The time for incremental change has passed. Nigeria needs a leader who can inspire hope, unite the nation, and chart a course towards a brighter future. The Nigerian people, renowned for their resilience and entrepreneurial spirit, are ready to embrace change. They are eager to contribute to the nation's progress, but they need a government that believes in them, invests in their potential, and creates opportunities for them to thrive. The future of Nigeria is not predetermined. It is a story yet to be written, a canvas waiting to be painted. The choices made today will determine the colors of that canvas, the contours of that story. The time for decisive action is now. The fate of a nation hangs in the balance.